questions for Mark, with one from Bill Landis from The Athletic.
Hey, Mark, could you maybe walk through the process a little bit of identifying a guy like Zen and I don't know, the ability to watch his senior film when I guess that was not a luxury you had with a lot of players in this class? Just how did you guys find him and how did you go about building that relationship kind of so quickly?
Yeah, so this summer, since we had so much free time with no camps, no visits, I gave my staff a project and I said, hey, let's just go through each guy gets a conference. Let's each guy go through their commit list, see if we can just find somebody or find some guys who may be good to track. And Zane Stevens was actually the one. He had the ACC, and we had a list of guys, and Zen was one of them. And so congrats to Zane. He discovered him, and we did our homework, found out he put on all this weight. And then the first few games, we started watching the senior film and saw what we wanted to see. And that's when we took him to Coach Stud and really got to know Zen, and everything checked out. And we're really glad we got him here.
Next up, Dan Hope with 11 Warriors. Dan?
Yeah, Mark, it was a pretty drama-free day for you guys. Just what do you think it was that you guys were able to do as a staff over the last 9 months to keep this thing together and build such a strong class without being able to have the traditional recruiting process?
Yeah, so this summer or this off season, we had 2 different Zoom calls where we had the whole class on a Zoom call. One of them, we had them and their parents, and we kind of did like a game show where we had a lot of fun and it was very interactive. And the second one was more serious about just, sharing their experience with their team and what they were going through with all the pandemic. And it was just good to get all the guys together, see them face to face, let the guys interact amongst each other. And then they just had their group text where, they talked every day. And so on our end, we didn't have to do a ton of work. They were on it. If there was ever any sort of smoke or issue, they let us know right away, like, hey, you might want to watch this guy. But they were awesome. They handled it. They got great leadership in that group. And, we were there just to support them and do what we could.
Are there any lessons you learned from this year that you think you'll now be able to apply whenever things do go back to normal?
I think Zoom's been really good in a lot of ways for kids who may not be able to get up here unofficially. I think we've got some great strategies now of just getting Ohio State and, some presentations or Zoom visits with the kids and their families, just to give them a little, introduction to what Ohio State is.
Next up, Jeremy Birmingham, Letterman Row. Jeremy?
Hey, Mark, we've heard a lot today and over these last few months about how integral Jalen Johnson, Jack Sawyer, and the guys in the class have been in building it. How important is it for you in the future to continue identifying Ohio guys as the building blocks, because the internet is changing the way recruiting is done and because you don't know what's going to happen in the future? How valuable is it to have those guys in place early?
Yeah, it's definitely critical. Obviously, Ohio's our main priority overall, but if we can get some of those guys in the boat early, like you said, that helps build the backbone and the structure of the recruiting class. That's our ultimate goal. We want the backbone of the class to be Ohio / the Midwest. And so the more guys we can get in there early, like Jack and Jalen, they help build the class. We told them, now that you guys committed, recruiting's over, you guys go build this class now. You guys be the leaders. And that's what they did. They took it head on. And then Kyle committed, and then you kind of saw that chain of events where these guys just kept adding kids in their group, and that group kept getting bigger and bigger, and it made our lives very easy because the commits and our players are our best recruiters. So obviously, with kids not being able to come on campus, it put a little bit more on our commits, and they did an awesome job.
You guys only had 2 decommitments in the class of 2021. How different was the strategy as far as identifying who kids were before accepting commitments in this sort of incredible, weird time?
Yeah, like Coach Day said, culture fit is the biggest thing for any kid we recruit. So before we even take a kid's commitment, we want to make sure they're a great culture fit. We don't want to deal with a lot of games being played and kid says he commits and then, a couple of weeks later he wants to go visit other schools. We try to eliminate that early on, make them understand what a commitment here means. And, it just shows the quality of kids we're recruiting. Not a lot of drama. It was an easy day, and pretty much the whole cycle was almost dramaless. So our coaches did a great job on having these kids understand what it meant to be committed and helping to recruit, like we just talked about.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, but I got to keep it to just one question just because we have a lot of guys that want to ask questions. Next up, Mark Gibler, Buckeye Scoop.
Hey, Mark, you've been here a little while now. Where does this Ohio class kind of stack for you of the ones you've seen since you've been at Ohio State? I think a lot of people think it's one of the better ones in recent years.
Yeah, definitely a strong group. And like we said, they're all great kids from great families. Obviously Jack was, a top guy early on, but Michael Hall was the one who, early on when we started recruiting him, he really didn't have many offers at all. And the more you just watched the film, the more you loved him, got to know him on campus. And, as we saw, he just blew up through the rankings, and it was well-deserved. Ben Chrisman was a guy we were on early. We had him in camp. We knew what we were getting there. Jalen, we've talked about. Sorry, who I'm forgetting. I don't have the list in front of me, but no, it's a great group. We're really excited to have those guys.
Next up, Austin Ward, Letterman Row.
Mark, it feels like at this time last year, people were asking Tony Alford a bunch of questions about, what he could do to turn things around or get the position back rolling, and then he gets two of the top 5 recruits, top 10 recruits in the country at that position. I don't assume he did anything different. How did he have all that success with Travion and Evan?
Yeah, he did nothing different. Tony's one of our best recruiters. He probably works as hard or harder than anybody on staff, and his greatest quality is building relationships. He's relentless. He gets everybody involved, from mom, dad, sister, brother. He's in constant communication. He's on it every day. With Trey and Evan, he did a great job explaining, early on we were going to take 2, and explaining kind of what their roles would be in this offense. And, those guys hit it off as well. Those guys, throughout the recruiting process, they were best friends. They were playing Madden every day. And so credit to them too for embracing their roles and embracing what they could do for this team. And we're glad. They're both awesome kids. They're both fast, and they're going to have great careers here.
Next up, Joey Kaufman with the Columbus Dispatch. Joey?
Mark, I asked the same thing to Ryan as well, but would it mean anything to you guys to sign ultimately if you guys get the chance to get the number 1 class on paper?
Yeah, I heard what Ryan said, and I honestly agree with him 100%. It's not a big deal. We've had classes in the past that were 4 or 5 and probably had more NFL draft picks in the top 2 rounds than some of these other classes. So to me, the way I grade recruiting classes is how they end up. NFL being a big part, but also key contributors, starters as well. So we'll look back or look forward here in 3 or 4 years and see that's how we'll grade it.
Next up, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Scoop.
Mark, for the guys who haven't been on campus, how difficult is it to explain the culture, show the culture, put the culture on display so that they really understand it?
Yeah, it's a great question that unfortunately it wasn't really able to do. But I think what the kids saw, if they got added into this group chat, was the quality of kids that we had committed, and I think they can sense that. What their makeup was, that they're hungry, they want to win, and they're just great. They're great kids, great people, great students. And Coach Harline makes a great point throughout these virtual times. He always said that you could see a commercial for like a luxury car or sports car, and that's kind of what like the Zoom visit was. You'd see this great car, but you never really know until you test drive it, get it, sit in that seat and drive it. And a lot of these kids didn't get to test drive the vehicle. They just they saw the commercial for it, but it just shows that the power of the brand of Ohio State as well. This place isn't, there's not a lot to sell because it's great and everything it means. And the kids know that, they see that. So that helps as well.
Next up, Zach Carpenter, 11 Warriors.
Hey, Mark, asked Ryan this too. Some of these guys come in with just huge goals for their freshman year. Do you have to go through any sort of process of maybe resetting their expectations for their first year on campus?
Yeah, it's 2 words, Mickey Marotti. He from day one when they come in, he de-recruits them real quick, and they get that wake-up call. But honestly, when they get out there, they see the effort from our leaders, from the veterans, of how much work they really put in. These guys have no idea what hard work is until they get here, and they see the veterans, kind of leading the way of what a pro really is. So it honestly, and the type of kids we're recruiting doesn't take a lot. They know what they're coming in here for. Great example, Julian Fleming, #1 player in the country last year. He just came in and went to work, never complained. There was no issue. Same with Paris Johnson. Those guys didn't say a word. They knew their role. They wanted to be great, and they just followed the leaders of that unit. So that's the type of kids we want. They're going to work hard, but heck, we're going to play the best players. So don't be afraid to come try to take someone's spot either.
Next up, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Mark, you guys couldn't have people on campus for nearly a year now, and usually you're trying to figure out how guys are going to travel here, how to get them on campus and things, and that just couldn't happen this year. But when you see a group of guys get together for the Buckeye Bash, as they coined it, I know you guys didn't have anything to do with that, but when you see them get together for that event, like, what does that mean to you guys in the building to see that that's going on, even with you guys can't have an impact on that?
Yeah, it just shows, with Jack Boyer and his family to put that together, and just the leadership, and, they're great people. And, it was exciting for a lot of these guys, like Trey. He had never been into Columbus, so that was his first time here, and having Jack, local, to show him around, and a lot of the other guys that came up for that weekend. So credit to the Sawyers for being great leaders, and, putting that all together for us, or not for us, but for the class.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Hey, Mark, when you guys have this much early success in the class, like you've had the last 2 cycles, do you see that, show itself in the next cycle? And also, how have you seen maybe the way Jack kind of, went about things after he committed, maybe show up in future commitments you guys have?
Yeah, we try to keep the momentum going. Obviously this class is now signed, and, if we have to fill a couple more spots here in February, we will. But, a lot of the focus now is back on the 22, and we want to keep that momentum going. We've got a great start right now, great class going, and we already have leaders being developed in that class that are doing an amazing job. Again, building another group text and being in touch with all the top players in the country. So they understand what leadership is, and those guys are doing a great job. So we just want to keep that momentum going.
Next up, Bill Rabinowitz, the Columbus Dispatch. Bill?
Yeah, Mark, obviously the bulk of the classes signed today or committed, sent their letters of intent today. There's still a couple players out there, I'm sure, that you still are pursuing. What is the likelihood that this class will get significantly better, especially with a certain lineman in the far Northwest?
Well, we're just, we're going to see after the season here if we have any attrition coming up, and if we need to plug in, with some high school kids that aren't signed yet, or, looking in the portal, or once this one-time transfer rule gets passed, if there's great players out there that culture fits and may fit a need, we're definitely going to look into different options.
Next up, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com. Doug?
Mark, you've been doing this a long time. You guys are getting it done after the coaching change from Urban to Ryan. Like, what at this point, what would derail your recruiting efforts? Why won't you bring in classes like this from now until you retire?
The head coach always drives the train, and my job is just to help them and help the coaches make their lives easier. Obviously during the season, right now they're game planning to try to help get a ring. Winning is a great recipe for recruiting. The more we win, the better it goes. So as long as we keep bringing in, great kids that understand the culture, I think we're going to have a lot of success.
Folks, we have time for just a couple more questions. Next up, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan?
Hi, Mark. Congratulations on a big day. I want to ask you the same thing I asked Ryan. He talks pretty regularly about, with all the adversity and all the stuff that's gone on this year, about just trying to be better than their opponent that week. And when it comes to recruiting, your opponent is much more broad than just one team. You're competing against everybody. but you guys have been able to put together such an impressive class here with truly some of the best players in the country. What made this effort so successful nationally? You guys have always recruited well in your footprint, but you've got guys coming from all over the country. How did you pull that, together this year?
Again, I think the brand of Ohio State is so powerful. I think the kids understand it. I think having the national exposure on TV, they're able to see us play. And, obviously we've had a lot of talented players over the last couple of years who have been very successful here and now in the NFL. So the players see that and then they want to be a part of it. They know if they come to Ohio State that they're going to be developed. So instead of making the easy decision, a lot of times kids from other parts of the country make a great business decision for their future and their career, and they have parents that support it. Donovan Jackson, Emeka, some of these guys, they could literally pick any school in the country they want to go to. And so for them and their parents to believe in Ohio State and the culture and Coach Day and our coaching staff, that's a big testimony to what we're trying to do here.
Thanks, Mark.
Next up, Tim May, the Tim May Podcast, Letterman Row. Tim?
Thank you, Jerry. Mark, in this age, we talk about culture fit and things like that. What is the toughest position group to find those fits as this thing evolves?
Yeah, I think just in general, the toughest position group to evaluate is corners, because a lot of times high school kids don't play corner. They're going to be playing quarterback to get the ball in their hands. They're going to play safety to where they can be in position to make more tackles. So, and film is sometimes hard, especially like on some angles where it may be very zoomed in and you can't see the whole play, to all the technique stuff. So to me personally, that's always the hardest one. Obviously this year is different, but in a normal year, try to never take a corner unless a coach has seen them, do movement drills in person to where they could see, everything live rather than just on the film. And a lot of it's just projection, like Denzel Burke, didn't have a lot of corner film, but we saw a receiver who had great speed, great feet and hips, and he wanted to play corner, which made it even better. Yeah. That's just a great example of a great athlete who we saw different qualities on film that we thought could project as a corner.
Yeah. And at this point, do you feel like you're riding a snowball or you're pushing a snowball? What is that sense, just, from your vantage point?
Probably a little bit of both. It's taken a lot of work, obviously, to get to where we are today. But we can't just sit back and relax. So we still got to do the heavy lifting, and at the same time, a lot of the key components are in place. So we just have to, embrace the hard work as well still.
Thanks, man.
Guys, I'm gonna get two final quickies in here from a couple guys that are giving me body punches. First, Mark Givler, Buckeye Scoop. Mark.
Hey, Mark, what did you see out of Reed Carrico? You guys moved on him very early, identified him as your top linebacker priority very early. And what are the challenges associated with evaluating a kid like that on film, playing where he does in a very small school, remote area in Ohio?
Yeah, so just so you guys, so Friday nights, obviously a lot of these guys play, and then myself and my staff come in early Saturday morning to start cutting up, the games from Friday night. And there's certain guys that you really look forward to Saturday morning, like you're fighting to who gets to cut them up. And Reed was always one of them. Reed was really fun to watch. How hard he plays. He's just this old school throwback linebacker who has no regard for his body. He's making 20, 25 tackles a game. He's playing running back and having 80-yard runs. So he was a dominant high school player who he wasn't into recruiting. He wasn't into all the splash. He just loves ball. And so Reed, if you have stock, you're going to put it in that kid because he's just a grinder, blue collar kid who's going to have a great career here.
And final questions for Mark today on this signing day comes from Jeremy Birmingham, Letterman Row. Jeremy?
Mark, in a big picture sense, how did this year change your job and recruiting in general? But also I wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out any of the other people behind the scenes that we didn't really get a chance to see this year because everyone was stuck behind computers.
Yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity. Obviously on the personnel side of things, Justin Perez, Weston Zernicle, Ed Terwilliger, Zane Stevens, and Quint Cottingham are all tremendous. Obviously, Tori was here and has now moved on, but Tori's a rock star as well. And then on the creative side, you got Zach Swartz, Juan Reyes, Corey Wonderly, Chris Chiraplouzis, who are all of the social content you guys see. They're the best in the country at what they do. It's amazing, the content they put together. Me personally, I've obviously had a lot of free time on my hands now with not having visits on campus this year. It's given me a great opportunity to, delve into scouting our opponents. So I'll put together scouting reports each week for, the coaches, and just a lot of them, they're focused on scheme driven stuff. So I can at least help them, give them a unique perspective on like, hey, here's the strengths and weaknesses of the guys that we're about to play. And it's given me really good perspective too on how we compare to other teams in the conference and looking at other top programs. And I've enjoyed that as well. And it's going to have to happen. It's going to be a full-time job. Once this one-time transfer passes, it's almost going to be like a pro personnel department as well. So that's given me a lot of enjoyment as well with my free time this year.